Hello, everyone. My name is Priyanka Raha. I am the VP of Networking and Events for the Women in Business Group, or WIB, at the Kelly Direct MBA. Our WIB group promotes women to further their career as leaders in the business world and beyond. Today, we are going to discuss negotiation during the job interview process. So, why are we discussing negotiation in the first place? People are always looking for better opportunities to advance their career. So, most of the time, we focus on networking, building a great resume, showcasing our skills and experiences in the interviews. But oftentimes, we forget a very important aspect, and that is negotiation. You can make your job offer even better and get all those things you have dreamed about if you can negotiate successfully. So, what are effective strategies to become a good negotiator? How you should play the game when the ball is in your court? To answer all of your burning questions, today we have with us Diane Fennig. Diane is a senior consultant at Gallagher. She is also an active speaker at the Forte Foundation. Diane is extremely passionate about career and relationship management. So, without further ado, let's learn all about negotiation from Diane. Hi, Diane. Welcome to our VIP platform. We are
Thank
so
you.
excited to have you.
Well, I'm gonna tell a little story. When Priyanka and I met, she said, "How about doing this live for my team at 9 p.m.?" And I said, "You don't understand. At 9 p.m., I want to be ready, getting ready for bed." So we talked about doing this interactively together using this technology. So we hope you enjoy it. We've had some fun talking about what we're going to do today. So thanks for that wonderful introduction. My parents would be proud. All right, PC. Post COVID, the work equation has changed. We all are looking for how do we find X? We're still trying to figure it out. This is post COVID. We're trying, but we know the work equation has changed. We still don't have all the answers. Before COVID, BC, you got my PC, BC, got it all going on. We really focused in negotiation all about salary. It's all about the money. It's all about your base pay. That is still extremely important. And I really want to start with the importance of how do we negotiate our base pay, which again, the critical piece. So I love this cartoon. It's a bit dated and there's only gentlemen in it. So, which always, gets me because it's like, wait a second, these are two guys. One bubble says 65,000, the other says 100,000, and they say they're moving closer on salary. One thing on negotiating salary, I do want to say, when you hear a range, although 65 to 100 is a very large range, as a candidate, you only hear the top number. That's what you think. You're like, I'm worth 100,000. Yes, I am. But the employer focuses on the bottom number. What can I get for 65? So I do want you to remember that you both are focusing on opposite end goals in this. What can I get for that bottom of the range? And you as a candidate are saying, I'm well above the bottom. I want at the top of the range. So when we negotiate our salary, again, base salary is what we're looking for. In MBA programs, many times people get very frustrated because they're told the base salary for an MBA coming in fresh out of school is X. You don't have any, there's no band, it's X. This is what the N is. And so if that's the case, you need to ask really good questions around that salary. When are raises offered? Annually, twice a year? And what's the percentage usually of these raises? That's going to help you understand, what will it take for me to get to where I want to go to? What would you think would be a better salary than the one that they presented? One of the other things in negotiating salary, I tell people all the time to use this tactic. It's worked for 30 plus years for me and many candidates I've coached. Ask for, when can this salary be reviewed? And they might say, well, we only review it annually. Could this be reviewed in 6 months? And if I give you a set of deliverables that I think I can accomplish in the first 6 months, and you agree to them, Might we sit down at 6 months and do a review, and I'm up for a salary increase at the 6-month mark? And ask for, could that be 10%? Then you're putting a stake in the ground saying, I'd like a 10% increase at the 6-month mark. And if you start doing the math, oftentimes you can beat their range when you ask for a 10% increase at the 6-month mark. But if they tell you our ranges are usually only 1 or 2%, you know you're never going to get to that end without a really big bump. So there's a strategy, and it has worked very well. Sometimes people say, I can't do 10, but I can do 7.5 to 8. Still better than 2, which is what you might see. So something very important to think about in salaries. But I'm going to flip it back to you, because Prianka has heard this session once before. What other things do you think are important, or from remembering what I gave you for some ideas last time, what stood out as, I never thought about negotiating that? Does anything stand out to you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I love that before COVID and after COVID. And on that line, right now, there is a huge aspect that we can negotiate is working from home options or flexible working hours, you
Oh,
know? So those, what are your thoughts on those areas? How can we negotiate?
there we go. Well, that's funny, because that is the number one thing that everybody says. I got to go back. I'm sorry. I went too fast. Remote work. But let us remember, with remote work, we're going to have good, solid internet when we can work remotely. I'll never forget, one of my former candidates said, I envision myself on a river in Montana. And I said, I got it. I understand a river in Montana, but where's the internet? You can't work with your little laptop on a rowboat. That's not the way we work. We've got to have good internet connections to work remotely. So the push on remote work has, without COVID, we'd never be where we are today. So there's really a silver lining in all of the COVID things. For all the losses, I mourn all the losses with everyone else. But this was a huge, huge step forward that we are now showing, and have taught employers we are able to work at home, and we are able to use a remote component and be wildly successful. If you go back on kind of the data points over the last 3 years, productivity was really high during COVID. Initially, a bigger spike of high, but I think people were anxious. And then there was a bit of a correction, because people were working all the time because they were like, I don't want to lose my job in all of this. So I think there was this huge spike up, but overall, the productivity was fabulous. Remote work is here to stay. Start thinking about, what components of remote are you looking for? Do you want flex time? Do you want a hybrid situation? Many employers are saying that hybrid is really critical. Some are saying 2 to 3 days in the office. Some are saying once a quarter, but totally remote time, in office time, where we are all together to create those synergies. Figuring out what's their palette for change, and what's their palette for remote, and who's working remotely, and are these your peers or not? You got to figure all of that out when you start looking at the remote work equation. But it is the number one thing everyone's asking for. And I think you've got to ask, what does it look like? How do you define it? And how are you kind of constantly updating and checking back in with folks to see if it's working? To me, some of the best managers are creating a remote schedule, but then also checking back in. Is this working for everyone? I think that's really, really important as you look to, what does remote work look like? Bonus pay and equity,
Hey,
really important.
Diane,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. So before we move on to bonus pay, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Is that remote work and base pay are coupled together? Like, if they are saying yes, you can do remote work more days, on a week, but in that case, your base salary can be compromised, as you don't have to commute.
Oh, so again, you got to ask those questions, because I don't want it to change your base salary. I don't think it should. I
Right.
don't think it should. Now, if they come back and say your base salary will look different, you've got to go through some of these other components to see where you can make up for the difference. How about let me give you that, and then we can come back to that at the end if I didn't answer that enough. But it's
Sure.
a great question. I think everyone should be paid for the work if they do it in person or outside of the office. If people are still contributing, I think everyone should be paid in an equitable way.
That makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's in the world according to Diane. I think that. So, what bonus pay and equity really important. So, one of the things that most candidates don't realize is employers cannot ask you, what is your current salary? In some states, that's an illegal question. So, what I always say is the better question is, what are your salary expectations for this role? And I always encourage candidates to bring their salary expectations in a range. Not like that range that I showed you earlier, 65 to 100, that's too far. Give me about a $15,000 range of what you'd like. What's the low you could stomach, and what do you really think you'd like? I mean, what would really be gravy and icing on the cake to get? That's all food related. I don't know about that. So that's what I'd like you to say to me instead. What is it worth? And some people work for organizations in which their salary is known as public information. And so when people get caught, they're going, wait a second, they know my salary because it's public information. Okay, but if you're up for an equity raise, you make sure they know that. So if you're up for an equity raise at your organization, and many are right now because they were not paid properly up till this point, and they're getting these really nice bumps for equity pay raises, make sure people know that. So I just want people to understand that's really important, really, really important stuff. But I want pay always to be a part of your base pay. Bonus pay is not base. Bonus pay is once a year. So I really want people to figure out when I take bonuses, there's trouble to that because I don't know if I get that again. So I always want people to know, do you want a bonus? What are you looking for? Probably you want it against your base pay. And many don't realize in bonuses that those don't go to your base, which won't carry forward, which is something I really want you to do is carry your salary forward. Matching money in 401ks, many organizations are matching a percentage. And you might ask them, can that be a larger percentage? If I match 10%, will you match 10%? Because the information I got from benefits was you match 7.5%. Is there, if I go in for 10, will you match that 10? Wait, not at your pay scale. Okay, could we look at this in a year? Again, matching is great money because it's just really, really nice to be able to do this. 403Bs are used in our not-for-profit organizations where you could put money aside in savings before taxes. Excellent if people will allow that to happen. So again, that's not matched, but a great way for you to do a nice incentive for saving. So again, these are the things that you ask for. And if it's not this year, could it be reevaluated after a year's worth of tenure? Things to always be thinking about in negotiation. It's not always just now. How do we negotiate forward in our future as well? Oh, everyone loves PTO. My niece was saying the other day, she goes, I have unlimited PTO. But then she came back and said, but if my projects aren't done, I can't take my PTO. Exactly, because you still have to be accountable to your work. So unlimited PTO sounds fabulous, but you have to have your projects worked. And if they aren't worked, someone's got to be there to monitor those when you're gone, when you're out. So they put a lot of pushback on her she's got to have the supports if she's taking PTO and she's in the middle of a project. She's got to work out who's going to be on first and second while she's gone. So again, PTO really important. I find the biggest thing I hear from folks is, I'm coming from an organization where I've earned 4 weeks of vacation and you're offering me 2. Wow, that would really be hard. I really enjoy my 4 weeks of vacation. Could we meet in the middle for the year 1 and have 3 and maybe reevaluate that after a year for 4? And they might say, we'll meet you for 3, but it'll take 2 more years to get you to 4. Okay, that's better than 2. Again, it's not always mapping for just now, but it's also mapping for that first year anniversary. So ideas of how do you talk about PTO and vacation, because it's an important one. Can you do a side hustle? Can you do another kind of business on the side. Some people on the side do voice lessons and do things that are not related to their work at all. Some people do things related to their work because they do some consulting projects on the side because of their expertise area. Is that possible within that organization? You've got to ask them up front, what do I sign a non-compete? And can I do and open a side business? Because I have a side business doing the following. Might I be able to do that while I'm working for you? I don't want any surprises. Negotiate that now. Make sure that that is something that you don't worry about because it's been approved, pre-approved. And so this is important because so many people are doing other things as well. When they're not a conflict, I think it's easier for organizations, but if they're too closely aligned, that's when organizations are like, you can do this, but not this. So work to figure out and be real candid of what you want to be able to do. You might make more money on your side business, so you really have to make sure you can continue to do it. This is one of my favorites, relocation pay. Back to your question earlier, I'm not moving. I'm a remote worker. I'm leaving relocation dollars on the table. Now, always remember, relocation pay is one-time only pay. Relocation pay is not paid out every year. It's paid out one time. Here are some creative ways I've heard people use it. So someone was offered, they came back and they said, okay, if I was relocating to your organization, to your city, I would probably be offered $8,000 to $10,000 in a move. And they said, yes, you would, but you're not moving. Okay, in lieu of that, this first year, might I put the following bills toward that relocation that you're not paying me? You want me on site for the first 3 weeks. And you want me to be on site for 3 weeks straight, my first 3 weeks of service. I'd like you to cover my travel for those first 3 weeks, my travel and my hotel and food. That could very well be a big part of that relocation package, but you're willing to be on site the way they want you to be there. Are you willing to pay for that in lieu of the relocation pay? Another thing, I don't have a home office. I never, in my former work, I went to the office all through COVID. So I never set up a dedicated home office. So I need 2 screens, other technology and the sort. If you don't provide those, could I use and could I charge you for those expenses for me to create my home office? And I've seen people successfully with receipts, desks, double screens. Someone also bought their internet for the first year under their relocation pay. I love it. I was like, that's great creativity of how do we use things, knowing that this is a one-time only, you're not going to get it in year 2, but it's going to help you be successful in that first year. So I thought that was some ingenious ways to ask for that relocation pay back. And then someone, again, knowing it's one time only and it has a shelf life of only 12 calendar months from when you start, someone else was able to also, because they quarterly were on site, when they were on site till they ran out of money, they were able to at least charge the airline flights back to their company. They bought their own hotel, but they bought, the company bought the airline tickets. I'm like, you know what? What a beautiful thing for year 1. Now, year 2, you're gonna have to make that up, but that's okay. You're gonna make more money in year 2, I hope. So, but it was a great way to kind of ease that transition. So relocation pay, I just thought that was really creative ways of how to do that. I'm going too fast. Previous. Professional development. You're a CPA. You need your credits annually. If you're changing jobs, make sure you tell your next employer, I am due for these credits. I need to earn 6 credits this year. I wasn't able to earn them last year because, so I really have it's time sensitive. And can you write that professional development and those travels into your contract? So they'll pay your travel and expenses for 2 professional development meetings this next year because of your need to get your CPA licensure. Continue your site. It's beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. But again, you stand back and go, I know I'm going to need this. Or these are 2 professional meetings I tend to go to, and they might say, you'd have to pick one or the other. Okay? As part of the negotiation, I'd like to be able to go to both. And it might not be, it might have to be negotiated every year. If you can go to both, continue to go to both, but maybe in that first year you negotiate, I'd like to go to both of these meetings this year. Again, this is stuff that's important to you for you to grow. Parental leave. What I noticed is in years before COVID, we didn't start this immediately on at start date. Usually it was kind of put out 18 months to 2 years, or a year, 18 months, 2 years out is when you could ask for parental leave. I don't see that happening anymore. It's available immediately. So that's been, again, a huge change for you and other things to negotiate. Health insurance coverage, partners, how do you put them on your health insurance plan? Because it's a better plan than your other partner has. This, again, very open conversations about how to do that. And so, again, part of the things you want to look at negotiating and figuring out what the health costs are for you versus your partner. Too fast tonight. And then travel. Now, some forget that we experienced fabulous travel where we all enjoyed it a couple of years ago. And it was very glamorous. It's not so glamorous anymore. And so many are saying with travel, I want some compensation for how much you have me on the road. And so some people will negotiate, when I travel and I'm gone from home 4 to 5 days, I'd like to be able to take and tack on a day in the front or the day in the back, or 2 days in the back of that trip for me to enjoy the city I'm going to, because chances are with my work, I won't have a minute to do it during the week. And so people are able to negotiate that they can travel a little bit longer on the company. And many companies are saying, goodness, but we're sending you all over the world, and you're spending 18 hours in flight for us, and you're not getting your work done while you're in flight because we want you to be rested and ready to go to work. So I'm finding a lot more people are willing to negotiate that travel. And just giving people back a little bit more of a travel perk. Anymore, if you follow anything in travel doesn't always look the same as it used to either. So it's nice to be able to go in a day early, because if you have any issues, you don't want, all of the flights to be canceled out and then you can't get to the meeting you needed to get to. It's nice to have that buffer of time. So I'm seeing more and more companies willing to do this. And so again, it's part of the things that you ask for in the negotiation. And then when I shared with you the other day, some shining star stories, some things that people are doing that make me go, yay. Tuition plans, Dollywood and Amazon come to mind as they're standing forth and saying, we're ready to help everybody go to school. But the other thing I'm hearing is people don't have the degree I want for this role, but I really want you to get it. And I'm vested in you getting that degree while you're here on our watch. So I'm seeing and hearing more organizations saying, how do we get you enrolled immediately in this schooling so that you have the credential we do want you to have eventually? And that openness to, wow, we really want to support you immediately, that is such a cool thing. And so again, if you really want to start working on that degree, how do you start talking to them about, one of my goals is I was looking at this specialized master's in XYZ for this, and they might say, oh, we'd love that. We're going to help you get that. We're going to help you continue that. No, wait a year. We're going to put that on. You are available to start doing that immediately. I'm just seeing a lot of people saying this is really, really important, and they're willing to stand behind their teams. So with that, I think that's what I've got. And I always promise the resources. So Anika Terrell is one of your MBA colleagues. She's the one that wrote these 10. I'm just being the spokesperson on her behalf. She's a Georgetown MBA from 19. 10 things to negotiate other than base pay in Forbes 2021, June 21 of 2021. So I want to give you I always want to give you guys the resources, because we're good MBA students. We've got to, show our work, show our research. And I really was impressed with her article and the things that she suggested about these 10. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you, what did I miss? What do you have a question about?
Sure, that was a lot of information, Diane, and thanks so much for sharing. And we actually, honestly, we generally don't think about all these aspects while negotiating, right? So thanks a lot for sharing. I'm going to bookmark this. Um, I have a question. So we covered like what part, right? What all things we can negotiate. Then comes like the when. When is the right time to negotiate
There we
during
go.
the interview process?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So, and I regret that this is a true story, but my neighbor called and he goes, Diane, I just got off the phone with Booz Allen. They have offered me a consulting role. And I said, congratulations. And he's going through and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And he goes, all right. So they're telling me that a letter is on its way by FedEx. And I said, okay. He goes, how can I negotiate? There's a couple things I want. And I said, unfortunately, today on the phone, you agreed that you were going to take the job because they're sending you a FedEx package for a hiring package. And he goes, did I really? I said, if they're promising you a FedEx package today, it's the formal letter. I said, it's too late. And he goes, how did I miss this? And I said, anytime anyone makes an offer to you, you come back and say, oh my gosh, what a gracious offer. Thank you so much. What I'd like to do now is kind of take all this in because I wasn't expecting this phone call this afternoon. I'd like to take all of this in, take pencil to paper and start looking at what this offer would look like based on what you told me my base pay would be and some of the things that you've offered in addition to the base pay. I need to review that to see if that works, kind of for me as I make my map of my next. And so what you say to someone, again, graciously, thank you. And it is Friday afternoon. Might I get back with you by Tuesday morning of next week? Help them know when you're going to get back to them. And you might come back on Monday and say in an email, very gracious offer, I'd like to talk to you about negotiating maybe this and this. I'd like to have a follow-up conversation to discuss this and this. Because it wasn't, and they might send you to a website and the sort, and you might say, I didn't see anything mentioned about the relocation pay, or I didn't see anything about professional development. So I'd like to have a follow-up conversation to kind of discuss some of these things. That's the way you're going to negotiate it, if that makes any sense. So again, gracious thank you. Then you go back and you really do your homework of what's not here that I want. What could I ask for? And they might come back and say, we can do this, this, and this. And you have to say, okay, they're going to give me 3 of the 4 things I want. I really want number 4. Okay, you got to say, all right, how can you get number 4 back if that's something you really want? But then I also say, and you'll know this after you've interviewed a couple of times. That's why I hate when someone gets a really good offer and they say, I want to take it. And I'm like, is it out of desperation or is it really meet all the check boxes? To me, as you offered a job and you've gone through the interview process and you might have interviewed in person or using Zoom technology these days, have you met enough people above you and you kind of with your leader that you would be working with? Did you meet enough of the leadership team to feel good? Did you have a chance to meet any of your peers? These are the people that really help you get the work done across the agency. And you might say, shoot, I didn't meet any peers. Okay. Maybe that's part of, you go back going, I didn't meet any peers. It's hard for me to make this decision because I met people above and I met people below. I met people who are on my direct team, but I wasn't able to meet any peers. And I'd like to ask some more questions about who are a little bit more about these people. I've read on the web and, all these people, but where I didn't have a chance to meet any of them. And if they come back going, oh, they've all left. Well, that's a huge red flag. Then we're going to say, okay, if they've all left, what's wrong? Or, wow, it was a hard week. And we were back and forth of when we were going to interview. We thought it was more important that you met the leadership team and this team. But if we want individual meetings set up with some of your peers, be happy to set those up this week. That's a green flag to me. I love it when people say, oh my gosh, oversight on our part. because you're right. There's 3 peers I really want you to meet. So when you walk out of an interview and at least 2 of those 3 are solid, it's nice if all 3 of them are solid, but if 2 of the 3 are really solid and you say, I can't see myself not there. I mean, I just liked everything I met. I just liked everything I heard. Yeah, I'd like a little bit more money. And yes, I really wish I could get 4 weeks vacation, but they said they'd give me 3. Okay, that's not the end of the world. If you say, I like their spirit in all of this, I'd say, then you should go. But if something doesn't feel right, and you'll know this in your gut, if it doesn't feel right and they push back and give you none of what you want, and you really didn't feel like the interview went well, you have your answer. Don't out of desperation go, because then it'll be a very awkward place and it won't be a good career move for you. So in your gut, that'll tell you, no, don't do it. But if they meet you and match you some of the things you're trying to negotiate and are willing to listen and say, goodness, no one else has asked us that before. Okay, let's move forward. But again, don't say yes too fast. Take, and help people know. And if they are requesting you to move, so often people don't do a good job of cost of living differentiators. And I just really want people to know, because it's very different to live in Atlanta versus Boston, Atlanta versus LA. So you got to know what the cost of living is. And what, I'm my current salary here is worth X there, and you're $30,000 less than that. That's a huge step back for me. So I think it's when you do your homework as to why you're doing the pushback. But to everyone who, because so many people will have a remote option and probably some kind of a hybrid option in their work, don't overlook that relocation pay, that package. I always say that's like free money out there. And everyone's like, I get more people saying, no one asked me for that before. And again, no, you can't ask for it any more than one time, but what a great way for you to buffer yourself for success in that first year. Other questions? Good question.
Awesome. I think you have covered all the crucial aspects that I was thinking about. But one quick question I can think about that, like people should make their priority list, right? So for example, while negotiating, I need or I would like to have these 5 things, but it's okay, and I can make that priority list from 1 to 5, and it's okay if they check 4 out of that 5, right? Not everything.
But again, you aren't always going to get everything you want. There's a lot of things in life I've always wanted, but if you don't speak up, they can't read your mind.
Right.
So that's why we say, could we do this or this? The other thing, and this is always difficult. Sometimes people make an offer really early, and you might say, this is a great offer. I'd like to sit on it for a couple of weeks, and here's my why. I'm expecting, I'm heavily interviewing right now, and there are 4 agencies I'm waiting for, and their decisions will be mid-February. So I would like to know if we could wait till mid-February till I make this decision, based on the fact that I really want to hear everyone's offer and kind of really see where I stand with all of that.
That's actually wonderful. So, can you tell me what is the reasonable time that we can ask for that wait?
Oh, some of them will really pressure you to not wait that long. Some will say, I'm sorry, this offer is only good for 30 days. And so if that's the case, you'll say, all right, then I will, after you kind of negotiate the things you'd like, then you're like, I will give you a decision like 2 days ahead of that 30 days. And you'll have to make a decision without knowing the other. But some people will put a timetable on that. But then I remind them, I have to be careful, because I can say this where you can't. Some companies will renege offers. I'm like, wait a second. I don't want you to renege an offer because you didn't take it fast enough. But just say that, what kind of timetable, what kind of timetables can I have on this offer? I think it's really important. But I don't know why everyone wants to jump because they get excited because someone says they want you, and everyone's like, yes. I'm like, no. thank you. I'd like some time to think about this. Initially, the offer sounding very interesting, but I need to do some more homework.
From my experience, Diane, I can say like whenever I ask that question to the employer, like how fast do you need the answer from me? They are like as soon as possible. That's kind of the standard. So I think if I have the leverage and I tell them, okay, this is the time that I would like to wait before letting you know, that might be work, that might work better. Otherwise the employer is like, you can come if you are available, come tomorrow.
Wait, again, that's a red flag. If you can come tomorrow, stop. And the other thing that's really important is if an employer pushes you to come and not give appropriate notice at your current work, that's a huge red flag, because they won't want you to do that to them at the end. And they're asking you to do that now to your current employer. In professional roles, 4 weeks. 4 weeks is what you need to give. 2 weeks if you're not in a professional staff role. Some organizations say 2 weeks is sufficient, but most will ask for 4. Almost everyone in a professional role will ask for a 30-day notice, 4 weeks, so that I can make the transition for other people. And if you can, take a few days off for yourself between jobs. Oh my gosh, I see so many people proudly saying, I'm working till Friday at 5 and I'm going back into the office, a new office, Monday at 8. Give yourself a break. All you had was the weekend. Give yourself some time off, because you have to really exit one properly to enter the other one the right way, right spirit. Very important.
Great,
All right, well,
awesome.
I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, this was extremely helpful. Well, I thank you so much, Diane, for your time today and sharing these valuable lessons on negotiation.
I'm so glad it wasn't at 9 p.m.
Oh, yeah. And I'm so glad we are recording this because this is not only limited to the WIB members, but also to all our KD members
Okay,
and our alumni.
there we
So
go.
everyone, they can bookmark this page, and whenever they are interviewing, they are going to watch this video, and this is going to serve them well. So
There we go.
I'm very excited we did this.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, and it's not 9 o'clock.
Thank you once again, Diane.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.